Now here's the problem. I speak very, 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 very little Spanish. I can order some tacos and a beer, and that's about as far as my Spanish gets me. So, are those microphones? I saw a couple of handhelds around here. Are those available right now? The handheld microphones? They're there. Okay, so I see. Okay, so we have a couple of people with the microphones. So what I would like to do, and if the translators don't mind, I just want a couple of people to share what you would do if there were no restrictions in your classroom. What would you like to do with your students, and share those things out. Okay, so maybe just 2 or 3. Feel free to speak in whatever language you're comfortable with, and we'll hopefully make it.
Bien, René López Dávila de Colima. Lo primero, bueno, conocer a mis alumnos en su contexto, hacer a un lado el programa de matemáticas, estoy hablando de la materia de matemáticas, hacer a un lado el programa de matemáticas y trabajar un proyecto con los 3 grupos, primero, segundo y tercero de secundaria, un proyecto donde se involucraran todos los contenidos sin que se supiera cuáles son los contenidos, ¿verdad? Desde sistemas numéricos hasta álgebra y geometría, con un proyecto donde los muchachos elaboraran, crearan algo, construyeran algo, no sé, una estatua, un triángulo en su escuela, un jardín con sus flores, y que utilizaran todos los conocimientos de matemáticas que ellos mismos investigaran, sirviéndoles nosotros de facilitadores. Eso es cuanto.
Excellent. Very good. All right. Anybody else? So yeah, lots in there about projects, project-based learning. Yeah, excellent. All right. Somebody else. Go ahead.
Hola, yo soy Pilar, soy maestra de Kinder 3, trabajo con niños chiquitos y platicábamos que a nosotras nos gustaría bajarle un poco el ritmo del currículo y tener más tiempo para la indagación, to slow down in our teaching and to have more time to make the children make their own questions about what we're learning. And basically that's it, to have more time for inquiry.
Very good. Okay, so being able to slow down and get the kids to, not just to cover so much content, but to really go deep into some of that content, getting the students to ask good questions and to engage in inquiry. So very good. You say you teach kindergarten. I think what you'll find as we go through today is that my high school classroom essentially became like a kindergarten classroom. I've learned so much from observing teachers of young children in my own classroom that it starts to resemble that. You'll see that for sure. So good. One more right here, and then we'll move on.
Mi nombre es Miriam, soy pedagoga, y si tuviera la oportunidad, al grupo lo sacaría a la naturaleza. Que se quitaran los zapatos, sintieran el aire en su cara, tuvieran la oportunidad de ver lo maravilloso que es nuestro planeta, y desde ello podría dar cualquier materia, desde geografía, biología, sentidos y a cualquier nivel académico. Eso es lo esencial, que ellos estén en contacto con su mundo real y que vean que todo está yendo de matemáticas, de cualquier materia, español, literatura, inspiración, creatividad. Yo creo que eso haría.
Very good. Excellent. Sure, one more. Go ahead.
Bueno, mi nombre es Gustavo Gutiérrez, somos de Ixtapas y Matanejo, y comentábamos que una de las opciones más viables es enfrentarnos al entorno, que es la mejor aula de aprendizaje, la vida misma. Y también pensando un poquito en la cuestión de los videos, una de las cosas que sería formidable con los niños es que en lugar de que nosotros hagamos los videos como maestros, que nuestros alumnos nos ayuden a hacer los videos. Ellos, después de haber procesado, discriminado, nos ayuden a crear el video que se los vamos a mostrar a otros alumnos de grupos menores, de grados menores. Creo que esa sería una forma de hacerlos partícipes de su propio aprendizaje. Gracias.
Excellent, very good. Yes, one more.
¿Qué tal? Buenas tardes. Arturo Castillo, director de preescolar del Estado de México. Yo creo que es importante en diferentes edades y niveles plantearles a nuestros alumnos retos, decimos retos cognitivos, plantearles problemas, la resolución de estos. Desgraciadamente la escuela se ha convertido en una institución donde los domestica, donde los acostumbra a actividades rutinarias, y cuando vemos que se les plantea actividades que tienen que ver con su vida, con su entorno, y que tienen que investigar, que tienen que argumentar, que tienen que experimentar, les emociona y es cuando ellos aprenden. Gracias.
Very good. Excellent. Good stuff. All right, well, we're going to move on now, I think, to my next question. I guess I don't need to hear myself being translated here. So, if I can get my slides back up on the screen. Okay, so this is our first question, but oftentimes we run into roadblocks. There are things that prevent us from doing some of the things that we want in our classrooms. Now, some of these things are out of our control, and some of these things we bring upon ourselves. So let me ask you a question. Given the responses that we heard from these people who shared, or the responses that you heard from the people you spoke to next to you, what would be easier? Let's look at some of the prevention things. Usually, from my own experience, the thing that prevented me from doing the things that I wanted to do was so much curriculum and so much content to cover. Kind of what you were talking to. There was so much, I just want to slow down and I want to dive deep, but I can't. I have so much to cover. That's what prevented me. So I asked myself, what is easier? To have my students do all of the inquiry activities and the research and the investigations that I really want to do at home, or is it easier to deliver content at home? Is it easier to assign your students a video to view about some scientific things at home, or is it easier to have them do their own field trip into the environment? It's probably easier to deliver the content to the individual and then be able to go take the group outside, into the environment around them, into the world around them, or it's easier to deliver content in the math class and then have more time in the class to dive deep and to get into the projects that you want your students to do instead of assigning those projects on their own. Not only is it easier, I think it just makes more sense that you would be there to support your students when they're doing the hard stuff in class rather than sending them home to do the difficult stuff. So, oftentimes, some of the things that prevent us from doing these wonderful learning activities that we've always wanted to do are content, lack of time, and the other one a lot of times is just fear. We've never taught that way before. And we might have to rethink the way we're teaching in order to make that transition to become a different type of teacher. So let's talk a little bit about how we can make that transition as teachers. And I'm going to use this in the context of technology. So I like technology. I like gadgets. I like things that have screens and that plug in. But technology itself doesn't really change the way we do our business. We heard this morning from Mr. Prensky about verbs and about nouns, where the verbs of learning are fairly constant, but the nouns constantly change. Okay, our technology, it constantly changes. So let's talk about technology. So when I was a student, this is the technology that was in my classroom. A chalkboard and chalk. Okay, not that folder thing. That was not in my classroom. The chalkboard and the chalk was the technology. So my teacher, my first grade teacher, she was very good at using chalk to teach. But the problem is that she had to teach like this. And she couldn't see her classroom because she was busy writing on the board. So she would kind of have to look over this way. Look over this way. And it was kind of okay because she smelled like coffee and cigarettes, and so it was kind of Yeah, but she had to have her back, right? So somewhere, while I was a young child, my teacher started to use an overhead projector. Now this was great because you could do the same thing. You could write on the overhead projector, just like you could write on the chalkboard, only now you could face your classroom. And you could see what they were doing, right? And you could always spot the teachers because they always had the blue ink on their hand. Because when you write on the overhead and your hand goes through it, it just smears the ink. So my mom was a teacher, her hand was always blue. You could find it. So this was nice. Then they got an upgrade. So they had the little thing that you turn and it moves the plastic across the front of it and you keep writing. So that was the upgrade. So new technology, right? Then we got these projectors, right? So we got these projectors here that are broadcasting here. A lot of schools spend a lot of money on putting projectors in the classroom. Some of them are on carts that you can share. Some of them are mounted to ceilings that are permanent. So now we've taken the technology of projection from that overhead projector, and now we've plugged it into a computer. So instead of writing, now you can type it all on the computer and display it with PowerPoint. After PowerPoint, after PowerPoint, after PowerPoint, after PowerPoint. So all we did is we took more content, more note taking, and we just put it on the computer. Then we started putting these interactive whiteboards on our wall. And people around the world were saying, oh, the smartboard is the greatest invention ever for classroom instruction. Here's the problem. Chalkboard, projector, overhead, oops, sorry, this way. And now we're back to the whiteboard. So we're back now, over 30 years, we've gone from our back to the class, to our front to the class, back to our back to the class. We haven't changed anything. It's all exactly the same. This is a place for teacher to present content. This is a place for teacher to present content. This is a place for teacher to present content. This is a place for teacher to present content. Then we decided we're going to make videos. Teachers are going to make videos, and we're going to give the kids iPads. And now this is a place for teacher to present content. So the technology has changed. Instead of a very, very inexpensive chalkboard, we've now spent millions and millions of dollars and pesos on electronics that are simply another place for the teacher to deliver content. Nothing has fundamentally changed if that's all we think about. As a person who is considered fairly innovative in my classroom, when I first started to use flipped classroom and to use video, all I was doing is still lectures and worksheets. Presenting content on a video, students doing worksheets in class. There is nothing new and exciting about lectures and worksheets. Then I started to readapt how I was using the technology. So we've changed our thinking that we don't want to just be presenters of content, we want to be facilitators, guides of education. Now how do we appropriately use technology to help us become better at that? Not how do we use technology to help us do the same thing that we've been doing for 30 years. How do we use technology to become better teachers? So I want you to remember one thing. Pedagogy must drive technology. Meaning good teaching comes first. We use technology to support that. We don't start with technology and teach to use the technology. We start with good teaching and then use technology to help us become better. That's the approach we have to do. So why then would we use video? Video is fun. Video is novel. You've now been to this presentation where some crazy guy from Pittsburgh came in and told you to use video. Why would you want to use video? We talked about this in the last presentation, so I won't go too deep into it, but this is a familiar medium for students. It's a familiar medium for adults. All of us in this room probably grew up watching some television. Or you go to a restaurant and there's a television. There's screens around us all the time. This is just part of the way we consume media. Whether you're 5 years old or 55 years old, it's around us and it's everywhere. So why not infiltrate and become part of that medium as teachers instead of rejecting it? I would encourage you to think along those lines with cell phones. How many of your students text in your class? How many of your students have a phone and you kind of catch them doing this? Okay? You've seen them do that. How many of you are doing that today? Probably. I was doing it earlier. It's what we do. So we can fight that culture or we can become part of it. So when my students in my class needed to get my attention, do you know what I told them to do? Don't sit there with your hand up. Text me. Take out your phone. The number's on my board. Text message me. Mr. Sams, I need help in the lab. I don't see this when it's back there, but I feel my phone buzz. Oh, hey, you need help. And I go back and help them. So instead of fighting the new media, let's become part of it and use it to our advantage. So that's why I think we should use video, because it's a familiar form to become part of. Okay, practical. What are the 3 essential components of technology necessary to flip your classroom? There's 3. First is video creation tools for the teachers. Okay? The teacher has to be able to create their content somehow. Second, you need a place to post the videos. Where are you going to put video content so your students can get to it? And are you just going to put it on YouTube, or are you going to organize it in some way? We'll talk about that in a minute. Then you need to provide some sort of access for the students. Now, some of them may have access already at home with computers and the internet. Some of them may have access through a mobile device. Some of them might not have any of that. And there are lots of solutions we talked about last hour. You will need to find a solution for your school and your learning environment. Okay? Because it's going to be different for everyone, but I will give you some suggestions. Okay, so let's take a look. We'll come back to that in a second. Let me show you a few examples of some videos that teachers have made. Now, some of these are really, really, really good. And some of these are really, really, really bad. And that's okay. But what I want you to be looking for, what I want you to think about while you watch this are, what makes the good ones good? What makes the bad ones bad? And what are some ideas from these that you might like to use in your own classroom? Okay, so let's take a few minutes. Let's see what some other teachers around, mostly the US and Canada, have done. Look for the good, look for the bad, and then we'll talk about it in a moment.
Will say his name and put up his big muscle arms and say A.
A.
Number 13, hat. The girl wore a big hat.
Distance from 0 to 1 is the same as the distance from 1 to 2. Likewise, it's the same as the distance from 2 to 3.
Now, those phrases, what we can do is simply say me gusta and then attach them to the end. So, an example, I can say, picking from that list, me gusta tocar la guitarra, me gusta cantar.
See, you guys had developed this massive bomb that you used on Japan after World War II. And we wanted to be big and bad as well and powerful. So we started to try to create nuclear weapons to rival yours.
And of course, we have command economies, and other words for those: planned, centrally planned, command and control, or socialism.
Welcome, class. Today I will be sharing with you how to make a fruit smoothie. These things are scrumdiddlyumptious, tasty good.
because, as you can see, it's fizzing right here. It's producing a gas. It's bubbling over.
Tendons, as you see here, connect muscles to bones. Here you see the gastrocnemius, the calf muscle, being connected to the calcaneus.
Another thing I want to talk about is cells are not boring. When I grew up, I had this idea that a cell was like a bag of jelly and you had stuff like a nucleus inside it and it would essentially float around.
Here in Woodland Park, we're at a higher altitude, so the temperature is actually boiling at 92 degrees Celsius.
A biography is a story, a non-fiction story, written about someone by someone else. And I have an example here. It is my Lady Gaga biography.
Yeah, I'll just say, hey, yeah. And that gives us a molar mass of 44 grams.
Bring those potato chip back. Now, compared to what we saw, it's totally full. Boils a lot of action.
Plug the numbers in and see how easy it is.
Here in the middle, we have two friendly sumo wrestlers who are eating the sushi roll, okay? The one on the left is eating 3/4 of the sushi roll.
I'm excited. You're excited. I know you guys just want to get through algebra, and so you want to get through it, and I'm going to get to it. We're going to talk about radicals and square roots, and the difference between the two is very slight. This little sign right here, this symbol, is called a radical.
So there you go. Videos made by teachers just like me. These are not professionally made videos. There is not a lot of production that goes into this. Many of the tools these teachers are using are free or inexpensive. Much of the hardware is just built into the most of laptops that you can get these days. You can make these as simple or as complicated as you want. You can make these very kind of quick, just to meet the needs of your students, or you can spend a lot of time editing these videos to make them to teach the world. It's really up to you. But you can see there's lots of different ways you can do this, many different applications, many different uses of video in a wide variety of subjects and grade levels, including, as this gentleman stated, having students help you make the content. Okay. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about are resources and tools that you need to actually make some of these things. So we'll be talking about hardware, and software, and learning management systems, and things for iPads, and things for PCs, and things for Macintosh computers. But to be honest, I could spend 2 or 3 days telling you all that is out there and showing you all that is out there, and we simply don't have time for that. So what I'm going to leave this up for a minute so you can write this down. But a very good friend of mine, his name is Dan Spencer. He is also a former chemistry teacher. Used flipped classroom approach. He now works with schools and teaches teachers in the state of Michigan how to use technology in their classrooms. He's on Twitter, RunFarDVS. But he has put together the best list of resources for flipped classroom hardware and software, as well as articles and videos and all sorts of resources. The best one I have seen anywhere. It's very, very long, probably about 20 pages. So I'm not going to take you through all of it, but write this down and go visit it when you get a chance. bit.ly/DVSFLIP. Okay, that will take you there. Lots and lots of resources. So I want to give you the Aaron Sam's executive summary of Dan's giant list of resources. And I'll put this up again later if you missed it. Okay, my favorite tools for teachers to create video content. Again, I was going to show you some of these, but my connection is not good, so we're going to just kind of talk through some of these. The first one is called Jing, J-I-N-G. Jing is a free tool. There is no cost to Jing. You can download it, and what Jing allows you to do is to record anything on your computer screen and your voice. Very simple. Computer screen and voice. So you could take them through a web page and talk to them. You could show them a PowerPoint slideshow with your voice and record that. There's a limitation though, 5-minute limit on the videos. Some teachers see that as a bad thing. I see that as a good thing. My videos were too long. My videos are still too long. They should be short. Keep video short. Video is a great medium to consume rapidly. It is not a good medium to consume over a long time. A good medium to consume over a long time is print and text. You'd spend the time going through a book, going through an article, learning it, internalizing it, and it stays with you for a long time. Video, it's good to capture interest, get excited in short little clips. My recommendation is no more than 1 minute per year old that the student is. 10-year-old students, no more than 10 minutes. 5-year-old students, no more than 5. In fact, I would encourage you to try for half of that. 10-year-old student, 5 minutes. Try that for best. I think that's best. Now, Jing is a great tool to learn how to start doing some of this. If you want to then kind of take the next step, there's a tool called Snagit. There's a cost associated with Snagit. Okay? But Snagit has no time limit. It also allows you to do some very simple image editing. And it allows easy uploading to things like YouTube, to things like Vimeo, to things like Evernote, or to Twitter, or to Facebook. One-click option, boop, uploads to any of those sources. Very simple. Now, if Jane is the big brother, and Snagit is the dad, Camtasia is the grandfather. Okay? Camtasia is a very, very powerful screen recording tool. It allows you to record your screen, and your audio, and the webcam, and you can edit the video, insert things into the middle, rearrange clips, zoom in, zoom out, put little boxes of text, all the things that you saw in a lot of those other videos. Most of those teachers were using Camtasia to make the more elaborate and the more detailed videos. So it's a very powerful tool. But some teachers, it's too much. If you've never done any video work, don't start with Camtasia. Start with Jing. So, Jing is free, Snagit has a cost, Camtasia has a slightly higher cost. Now, there's a free internet-only application called Screencast-O-Matic. So if you only want to do this using your web browser, and don't want to download software, don't want to purchase software, Screencast-O-Matic is an amazing tool, and it all operates in a web browser, in Internet Explorer or Firefox or Chrome or any of those. It works very, very well. It is very simple to use, and I highly recommend it as a starting point if you don't want to do any editing of your video. Just a recording and upload. Very simple to use. Another one's more complicated, and it's only for Macintosh computers, is called ScreenFlow. It's very similar to Camtasia. Camtasia is for Mac or PC. ScreenFlow is for Mac only, but it's a good one that you might want to check out if you're interested in doing this. Now, all of these programs are utilizing a technology called a screencast, like Screencast-O-Matic. Screencast meaning it's recording what's on your computer screen. And that is the primary source of video. Now, if you don't want to do a computer screen recording, you don't use a lot of, let's say, PowerPoint presentations. If you have a smartphone, you have a video camera. I've seen many of them here today, so I know most of you have something like this in your pocket. How many of you have an iPhone or an Android phone that has a video camera recording device in it? Many of you, exactly. So, you saw some videos of me and my colleague, John. He was riding his bike up a very tall mountain, talking about gas pressure. We were in the lab. We were just shooting it with a really simple video camera like this. And then we just distributed that to our students. didn't want to do anything elaborate. I've seen teachers actually take these and tape it to a stand like this with some tape and then record something and put something underneath here and do a demonstration here. Or maybe put a piece of paper that they can write or draw on, or a whiteboard or something like that. They can just record something very simple with very simple tools. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't. Before the end of the session, start making a list of some of the skills that you need to acquire. Maybe you can start thinking about how you go about acquiring. Maybe you need to talk to a technology advisor at your school, or technology coach. Maybe you need to bring me or John Bergman down to your school to do a training for you or your staff or one of our colleagues. Maybe you need to go to YouTube and to find a video on how to use some of these tools. Great places to go. It's going to differ for each person, but start making a list of things that you need to learn how to do. Okay, so once you've created some content for your students, the next thing you need to do is you need to figure out how you are going to deliver not just video content, but all sorts of other content to your students. Now, I think putting your videos on YouTube is really the place to do it. It's the thing to do. It's simple. Everyone has access to it if they have a device that can get on the internet. Pretty much every internet-enabled device can use it. It's one of the beautiful things about it. Another good place to post video is Vimeo. If you want to do a little more high production, high quality video, Vimeo might be something you want to consider. I'm starting to explore video a little bit. But here's a question. I don't know how it works here in Mexico. In the United States, most schools and school districts block YouTube at school. How many of you, YouTube is blocked? You can't get to YouTube at your school. Is that the case for a few of you? Anyone else you can't get to YouTube at school? Okay, so there are some of you. Okay, so that's a consideration. If YouTube is blocked at your school, you might need another option. Or have your technology department contact YouTube so they can get YouTube for schools. YouTube now has a special version of YouTube that they can push out to schools with no advertisements. None of the, when you get done with a YouTube video and it says you get 16 more videos that you can click on that are kind of related. And after you do that 4 or 5 times, you're into the deepest, darkest, most horrible depths of YouTube that you wish you had never actually gone to. That time will be before you. So no advertisements, no more. If you like that, you might also like this video. It's just the video. And the schools can control it. So they filter for some content, and it's a much more, I would say, school-appropriate use of the platform. So have your technology people contact YouTube for that option. It really is as easy as just contacting them and they'll get it set up for you. Now, that's to deliver the video. That's a good place to post your video content. But then you have to think about how you're going to organize your video content. Now, a lot of teachers, they organize the video content on their own web page or blog pages. Some teachers don't want to do that. A very popular tool for teachers is to start using what's called Edmodo. And have anybody in here used Edmodo? Familiar with that? Okay, so quite a few people see Edmodo. Edmodo is an educational platform, and it's laid out very much like Facebook. So again, it's very familiar to your students. It's a great place to post a link to view something, or a document, or a place for your students to interact. But another way to post content would be to use the learning management system, or a course management system, LMS or CMS that I'll call it. Very popular one is called Woodland. The reason it's popular is because it's free. I like things that are free. So, as a teacher, I never had much money for resources. I had to go find things that had no cost. And I chose Google as my learning management system because there was no cost to it. Now, there's some management. You have to host it. You have to know how to manage it. It takes some learning, but it's a great tool. Any schools here already using Google? Schools using, I talked to a couple people earlier today that were using Google. A few schools using Google. Great. So, find the people who raise their hand and ask them about it. How to get it set up, how to use it. Moodle is free. It's also open source, which means it have access to your videos, they can have access to the course materials. I did all of my exams in Moodle, right? Instead of students taking exams on paper, they took them on the computer. And it allowed me to create many versions of the same exam for my students if they needed to retake it. They would take a similar test, not the exact same test. So these are, I think, are very good places to put. There are so many other places to put videos out there. The list is going on and on. These are a few to explore. Okay, tools for students. If you choose to use video in your classroom, and if you choose to deliver it on the internet, your students have to be able to use it. Now, in the last 10 years, access to internet and access to mobile devices has come a long way, not just in the United States, but around the world. It's not perfect, it's not 100%, but it continues to get better every single day. So, everything in the world is going mobile. Most of the new application and software development happening in the next 5 to 10 years is going to be from mobile platforms. Money is being poured into mobile development. Money is being poured into infrastructure to support mobile. You know, it's great. I have better cell coverage in Mexico City than in Portland. That just makes me smile. Love it. So, mobile is huge. And mobile, I really think it's going to be one of the best solutions to overcoming this issue of access. Because it's much easier to put up a cell tower on the top of a mountain in a rural area than it is to run fiber optic cable in that area. It's just cheaper and it's easier. Deliver markets, and more people are doing that. I did a workshop like this for a group of teachers in South Africa, but I sat in my office in Pittsburgh, and they were at a conference like this in South Africa. The room they were in did not have internet connection. We did it all over a cell phone. I had Skype on my end, they had cell phone, it's actually through an iPad with mobile connection, and they just projected the iPad all through a mobile cell phone route. So this is mobile is where everyone's going, and I would really encourage you to explore this options. But there are tablets, laptops, PCs, access to friends. I had some students tell me, Mr. Sands, I don't have access to a computer. Okay, aren't you best friends with Johnny? Because I know Johnny has access to a computer. Yeah. How much time do you spend at Johnny's house? There about every night. Why don't you just view your chemistry video with him? He's in your class. You could work together. So this power of working with a friend is a long way. Public libraries are a great place for students to go and get access to this. I don't know about Mexico, but in the States, every single Starbucks and every single McDonald's has free internet access. So even if they don't have a cell phone plan with mobile data, if they have an old cell phone that somebody can get rid of that has to connect to the internet, Wi-Fi hotspot, stand outside Starbucks for 15 minutes. And then go home. Yeah, of course, don't tell Starbucks I said that. They want you to buy their coffee. But it's an option. I mean, these are things, you're a teacher. You are creative people. You have to be. You can overcome this and you can find a solution for your students. There are so many options, so many ways, so many things that you can have your students do. Again, the list can go on for days. These are some of the ways that your students can have access. You can find a solution for your students. Okay, so you've probably thought of lots of ideas right now. Like, hey, I can do this or that, or X or Y or Z. Or maybe I'm going to run into some roadblocks and challenges. So I'm going to have you get into your groups. And I definitely want to listen to what you have to say. So we're going to have you share. Maybe we'll take 4 or 5 people to share again. Do you anticipate any problems with student access to digital content? And how will you overcome these challenges? It's one thing to identify that this will be a challenge. But I want you to think already how you can start to overcome the issue of access. It's a legitimate concern. There are solutions out there. So again, 2 more minutes. With your friends and colleagues, we're going to have you share your answers, a few of you, with the microphones after. Do you anticipate any problems with student access to digital content? And how will you overcome? It have to be expensive to be effective. Okay. Okay, so now, one thing I want you to consider now, we're going to get on our small groups again, so you don't have to listen to me talking for a few minutes. I want you to answer these questions with your colleagues that you're sitting next to, and we'll have you share your answers again. First off, well, maybe we won't have you share your answers, but I just want you to think about this. Do you have adequate technology tools and skills to do this? So knowing what you have access to, either personally or at your school, do you think you have adequate technology and tools and the skills necessary to create something like you saw up there or something even simpler? And if you don't, what specific tools or training do you still need? Okay, so talk to your friends, talk to your colleagues, discuss the resources that you have, discuss whether you think it's adequate, and discuss what you still need. Okay, 2 minutes. It's okay to teach in a different way than we have for the last 200 years. But it's going to take a few brave people to get into your school, to get into your school district, to get into your state, and start doing things differently. And that's fine. But I encourage you, okay, we've got a few resources. Again, flipclass.com. If you need training, this is the place to go. Contact us through there, we will come and help you. Fliplearning.org, this is a place for resources and research and a professional network. If you want to go to our conference, it's this summer, June 23rd through 25th in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So 2 websites that you need, flipclass.com, fliplearning.org. If you have those 2, you'll have access to everything else I'll show you. Flipclassroom.org, 17,000 teachers networking, sharing ideas about the classroom. Go there, join, start a Spanish language group, start a Mexico group, start a state that you live in group, start a group for your own school, whatever you want, it's up to you. You can manage it. Success is messy. Success doesn't happen in a straight line. The software developers that designed Angry Birds had, I think, 75 failed games before Angry Birds took root and became one of the best-selling games ever for mobile devices. Okay? It is a challenge to change things. It is painful. But I think if you give yourself 3 to 4 years as a school to change the culture and the way the school dynamic works, that's enough time. 4 years and you'll see dramatic changes in school culture. Alright, why is this trending? Teachers love it because it is the transition they've been looking for. Teachers go to conferences, they know they want to change, but they don't know how to get there. This is a way for teachers to get there. Okay, I'll close with this. I call this 5-5-5. I did not wrong with this, I got this. 5-5-5. We know from research that adult learners, if they don't do something, what they just learned, they will forget it almost immediately. So before you stand up, before you leave your seat right now, I want you to do something. Create a plan. What are you going to do in the next 5 days with what you've learned today? What will you do in the next 5 days? Maybe you're going to go research some screencasting tools and find something that works for you. Maybe you're going to figure out how many of your students have access to the internet. I don't know. What are you going to do in 5 days? What are you going to do in the next 5 weeks? 5 weeks. What's your better plan? Maybe you're going to flip a lesson. Maybe you're a principal. Maybe you'll flip your next staff meeting. I don't know.